In this section, we're going to be looking at advanced breakpoint debugging tips and tricks. The first thing that we're going to be looking at is how to replace all the print statements in your project. This is the viewcontroller.swift file. What I've done in advance is to create 4 functions that we're going to be using to add, subtract, multiply, and divide a value of a particular variable. So let's declare a variable at the top here. So I'm going to say variable x, and it's going to be equals to 0. So inside of the add function, I'm going to say x plus equals to, I'm going to add 3 to the value of x, and then inside of the subtract function, I'm going to say x minus equals to 1. I'm going to remove 1 from it, and then for the multiplication, I'm going to say x multiply equals to 4, and for division, I'm just going to divide it by 2, so that would be x divided by equals to 2. At the end of the divide function, we want to know exactly what the value of x is. So let's print the value of x. So here I'm going to say divide, and then I'm going to put the value of x at the end here. So inside the view did load, we're calling the add function. So once the value is added, we need to now call the subtract function. So let's call subtract after the value has been added. And then once the value is subtracted, let's call the multiplication. So multiply. That's actually, this one should be multiply, not multiple. So multiply. And then finally, inside of the multiply, then we need to call the divide function. So this means that when the app starts, it's going to call the add function. We're going to add 3, then it's going to call the subtract function, where we subtract 1, and then it's going to call the multiply, which multiplied the number by 4, and finally it's going to divide the value of x by 2. And then it's going to print the value of x. So let's run our project to see exactly what we have. So here you can see that it says divide and 4. But let's say that the value of 4 is not what you expected, because we're calling different function inside of another function. So you may want to track exactly how the value are changing. So the easiest way to do that is to actually print the value of x inside of each function. So I'm going to copy this particular print statement, and I'm going to place it inside of each function. So here I'm going to say add, and then we print the value of x, and then after the value has been subtracted, we use the print statement again to say this is the subtract, and the next one we want to know exactly what the value is inside the multiplication, so multiply, and finally we have the division. So let's run our project to see exactly what we have. Okay, so let's hide the variable view. So here we know that the value of x when 3 is added is 3, and then when we subtract it becomes 2, then we multiply it by 4 becomes 8, and then we divide it by 2, which is then 4. So that means the value is correct. Even though we're able to debug our project using a print statement just to get an idea what is happening inside of each function, it is not always good to have print statement all over your project like this. As you can see, it is not really pretty. I don't like to have print statement all over my project. This is why you can use the breakpoints to also do the same thing that we've just done here. Let me show you how we're going to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace the print statement on this line number 22. So I'm going to delete this particular print statement, and I'm going to add a breakpoint. Once you add a breakpoint, right click on the breakpoint to get access to this context menu. Click on the edit breakpoint. You're going to be presented with this option. You want to click on add action, and here the option says log message. So we want to log message on this particular line number 22, and the message that we want to log is, so we want to say add function, and then if you look here you can see where it says at exp at. So that means you can print an expression. So any expression that you want to print, for example a variable, just put at sign at the front and at the back of it. So I'm going to say at x at, because I want to print the value of the variable x. So that means it's going to give us the same thing that we're doing with our print statement. So all you need to do is now just click away from the breakpoint. Now let's run our project. It is going to pause on that breakpoint, but as you can see that we have the same information that we had previously using the print statement. But there's another option that I need to show you. If you right click on the breakpoint again and click on edit breakpoint, sometimes you don't need a breakpoint to be paused. all the breakpoints that we looked at so far, they stop at the place where we require them. If you don't want the breakpoint to pause, simply select this option, the one that says automatically continue after evaluating actions. So select the options. This means that when we run our project, it will not pause on this. So let's run the project. And you can see we do not have the breakpoint stopping on this particular line. Instead of having a print statement, we've replaced the print statement with a breakpoint. So let's do the same thing for the subtract. So I'm going to delete this particular print statement on line 29, and let's add the log message. We're going to say subtract, and that will be at x at. Okay, and select the option that says automatically continue, click away, and then for the multiplier, we're going to do the same thing. And then add action multiply, and then we want to print the value of x. Once you know how to use this, you will never need to use a print statement in your program again. And then finally, for the divide, we can simply do the same thing on this line 43, and right click, edit breakpoint, add action, automatically continue, and that will be divide. And we can just say at x at, and click away. I don't think we had the option to automatically continue. So now let's run the program and see exactly what we have. So as you can see, we were able to achieve the same thing that we did with the print statement. Now we don't have any more print statements lying around in our program. Sometimes when I don't want to use a print statement, I use this option. As you can see, we were able to achieve the same result as if we were using a print statement. You can use a breakpoint to log a particular value of a variable inside of a function. That will give you an idea of exactly what is going on in your application. You can use it for debugging. So anytime you want to track a particular value of a variable inside of a function, simply use the breakpoint log message to get that value. If you don't need to pause your application on that particular line, you can automatically continue after evaluating that breakpoint.